So what's something not enough people are talking about in healthcare?
You know, most industries, when you digitize an industry, you see digital transformation occur. And, you know, you see that in banking, you see that in the airline industry. In healthcare, it feels like we're right there, but we're not. It hasn't quite happened yet. And so one of the things that, you know, I think a lot of organizations are very focused on is how do we take those ones and zeros and all these people that put all this work into making them ones and zeros and put them to work in a way that optimizes workflows, saves cost, and those types of things. And so, you know, focusing on back to interoperability with the purpose, focusing on something that is very impactful in exchange of information, like between legal requesters, insurance requesters, and providers, allowing providers to get to work and caring for patients and requesters to focus on the things that they do.
In short, I would say people. I think all of us could focus a lot more on people, not just patients, but also the workforce. And given some of the trends in workforce reduction, how well does our decisions lead to the empowerment of the workforce, but also the health of our patients? And that includes financial decisions.
Third-party financing to help people move forward with healthcare. It definitely helps to increase both hospital revenue as well as increase patient satisfaction.
Quality within the middle of the revenue cycle. So there's been a lot of focus on productivity, and there's been tools being used like computer-assisted coding, and we're hearing a lot about autonomous coding in specific areas on the outpatient side or offshoring. So there's been a focus on how do we get faster and how we lower cost. But that kind of is at the mercy of perhaps better quality. And there's a lot of revenue leakage that goes on in the middle of the revenue cycle when the focus is just on productivity and lowering cost. So really, I think a focus more around quality and how to improve the quality before billing is going to be a key area that needs to have more attention.
Social determinants of health. I don't feel like we talk enough about that from a financial standpoint in organizations. So factors like socioeconomic status, education level, access to information really disadvantage patients and how they can navigate the healthcare system. And so really incorporating education into the patient journey will not only help them from an access perspective, but also financial outcomes of organizations.
Well, again, in the patient billing space, which is where we're focused, I think the Medicaid disenrollment trends are really concerning to us. That's made some headlines in recent weeks and months. Medicaid funding is now getting cut off in part because of the emergency COVID response ending. And as a result, a lot of folks across the country are no longer getting Medicaid coverage. And when that happens, they might be on the hook for really, really high balances with providers. That's bad for those consumers because they're often the ones who are least able to pay. And it's also bad for providers because now they have to chase these consumers for really, really significant amounts of medical debt. And so what we're excited to do is help create clearer connections to financial assistance programs and help people connect with them digitally, because I do think this is going to be a really important trend to watch.
Data integrity, I think, is one of the biggest issues that we're not focusing enough on. There are so many tools that allow providers and others to create documentation, even looking at something like ChatGPT. Somebody needs to be auditing it, somebody needs to be evaluating it, and those are skills related to a workforce that's also going to have those education tools. And AHIMA is also looking at creating education and resources and best practices around the use to ensure data integrity.
You know, I don't think we're talking enough about what is truly automation. So everything right now seems to be around bots, right? It's all about, and that's the only thing we're talking about with automation. There's so many other ways to automate. In my opinion, bots should be your last resort because they take a lot to build, a lot to maintain, they can break. That should be the last resort. They have a perfectly good place. But let's talk about automating using APIs and things like that are more, easier to work with.
So I like that question. I don't believe that enough of us are talking about empathy in the patient experience. So everybody can throw that word out, but what does it really mean? Empathy, I like to think of it as, and I put myself in a patient's shoes. So let's talk about the postpartum mother who is right out of the hospital. She has very few hands-free moments. She might be rocking her baby at night. What about giving herself scheduling? The second patient might be my parents, vision impaired. How about giving them some OCR technology so that we can take a picture from the cell phone and import all of the data from an insurance card, from their driver's license, pre-fill out a form. The data accuracy goes up to almost 100%, and they don't have a very inconvenient patient experience. What about me as a patient? I travel a lot, and a lot of us are in business meetings. We're traveling across the country. Paper simply doesn't work for us. It sits in our mailbox for months. You know this. So text me, give me a text to pay option, or Apple Pay, Google Pay. And finally, I think of those patients who really can't afford healthcare, somebody who gets injured on the job, a worker who comes in. Offer that person the ability to pay with a payment plan that's convenient and tailored to them, one that really calculates based on their propensity to pay how much they can pay, but how often they can pay. Those are just examples, and that to me is an empathetic patient experience. We have the technology to do that. We have technology to drive self-serve options. We have data and intelligence to know a patient's preferences and to be able to personalize. And we have the preferred communication channels that we can communicate to the patient in. So all of that in combination, I believe, can offer a more robust, a more personalized and empathetic patient experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Valerie.